Hey there, Internet. So I wanted to re-record this, which is why it's a little different background, because since I'm still staying with my in-laws, I got home before I had uploaded and decided to rethink that one. I wanted to make sure that I make clear. This is not a channel about religion, it's a channel about politics, and if there's any two things that touch seemingly every part of our life, or should, it's religion and politics, as annoying as that is. Because if you're a religious person, you probably let religion determine everything. If you're not a religious person, you might not understand that, and I think that applies to a lot of Democrats, honestly. I think that's why they don't understand why conservative Christians don't want to bake a cake for a gay wedding. And if you don't like politics, well, unfortunately, that's as they say, politics cares a lot, still cares about you, because it manages to touch everything in our lives. And sometimes those two overlap, and that's when people really get a rub. And recently, Nancy Pelosi who is a devout Catholic, supposedly, got denied communion. Now, I am not Catholic. I'm going to preface this. I was raised Lutheran, roommated with a Baptist minister roommate he had some other Pentecostal influences later on, and I'm friends with a Baptist minister that is at the church I used to teach Subak Do at. And they all helped me with the research. The two of them helped and a friend. So thanks to random friend, I will just describe it as random friend C, for helping with the Catholic stuff. Friend of mine whose first initial starts with B, and his wife's on social media, even though he is not, and a local pastor up in Cedar Woolley, who will be just random friend D, or you could just say he's random pastor D, but that's beside the point. And so a lot of liberals upset that Nancy Pelosi was denied communion. Well, I just got to let you know that you need not fear. She's found a new place to do communion, or one has been offered. According to the Babylon Bee, link will be in the description below, she has been offered to do communion at the Satanic Temple. And maybe that'd be the place she'd be happier. I don't know. The article did say she was trying to play a level 1 lawful evil drow fighter, and that doesn't seem like a good match for her, honestly. They should just give her an ancient necromancer. Having played D&D myself, it's not the satanic thing people think it is. But why is this, and how does this rub? Well, you have a high-ranking politician who is supposed to be a devout member of a religion that says abortion is wrong, abortion is murder, it's in complete conflict with our religious teachings. Even if you go and get an abortion, you can be excommunicated, which is cut off, and it's not just denying communion, as I understand it. So it's treated serious, as is euthanasia, as is being involved in a gay wedding, if you're Catholic. And for some other churches, that's a very serious thing. The first friend I talked to, he defrocked a minister for officiating at his daughter's lesbian wedding. He said, he contacted him privately and first said something. The guy tried to lie about it. For one, that just makes everything worse. He's like, I got the program in my hand saying you're officiating. And so some people don't get it. Probably if they're calling you, they know it's already going on. And some of the memes I've seen said, that's not your place to take that away. It's not for you to decide. Well, after the couple of religious articles by and for Catholics that I was provided by random friend C, for a Catholic church, yes, it is. It is the minister's position to deny that. This is not something that's overnight. One of the articles talked about dealing with a state rep that wouldn't change his ways. And likewise, one of the articles was quite long involved and said, if you got somebody involved in serious, grave sin and is obstinate and public, this isn't, the minister finds out via confession that, maybe a guy's into other guys. This isn't a person saying, I privately voted for pro-abortion candidates for that reason. This is a person who is up there advocating for abortion up to the moment of birth, because that was their last bill to codify Roe v. Wade. This is a person wanting to spend federal tax dollars on foreign aid that could be used toward abortions, or to fund organizations that promote abortions, or wanting to force insurance companies to cover abortions. So this is not a person just privately disagreeing with the church even. And when I looked into it, in some Christian churches, there's a wide variety of practice on communion. Some, as Pastor D said, they call it square fencing the table. Who can take communion? Some churches, you always say you believe as us, you say you're a Christian, you can take communion. Others say you have to be from our actual congregation to take communion. There's a whole range for that. And some will even deny communion if somebody is in serious, grave, obstinate sin. And as Pastor D noted to me today, he knew of a case sometime in the past that a pastor denied communion to a woman who wanted to live in, as he put it, worldly ways. Now, one of the listed people that could be that, prostitutes, strippers, that sort of thing. An abortionist could be denied communion, and not just in a Catholic church, but in some Protestant churches. And it's always seemed odd to me. I have Catholic friends, I have Protestant Christian friends, I have Jewish friends, I have LDS. They don't like saying it. Now they don't want to be called Mormons, when that's what they used to say, but Mormon friends. I have pagan friends, and probably a disproportionate number of those. My pagan friends, they have very few rules on many things. The big one that I understand from my favorite witch, and we'll just refer to her as that, she knows I refer to her as that, as she said, is the Wiccan Rede is, if it harms none, do as thou wilt. Well, that's open to interpretation. I suppose a coven could decide that, life begins at conception, don't get involved in abortions or support it. They could decide that because it harms a person. And if you think logically about it without religion, it's not very far, and you're saying abortion begins at conception. It doesn't take very long on that. And my favorite witch doesn't totally agree with that, but even she thinks that the Democrats have gone nuts. As she had put it to me, even if her daughter became pregnant, and her daughter at the time was 13 or 14, and she was so young that she might not be able to handle it. Even if her daughter wanted an abortion, she wants to be a part of that decision. Democrats don't even want that much. So when it comes to a Democratic politician, it's not even just, flip, we're going to do this. This has been going on for years. In the case of the time in the 90s, this bishop found out that this guy was saying how he was devout Catholic, and he said, this guy's promoted abortion. So he contacted him and said, you need to contact me, you need to repent of this, and not come to communion until then. Then the next time, a month later, the guy they were promoting how he was a devout Catholic. Well, he contacted him, sent him a copy of the first letter with the second letter, and said, you need to change, do not present yourself for communion. If you don't repent and change your ways, I will have to instruct the priest not to give you communion, but don't show up. Don't present yourself for communion. You're not worthy of it, because you are publicly sinning. And, it is Sunday, and, ministers may not, the Pastor D did not respond to my last question. That's fine. He's probably busy. He's a minister. Well, I said, I always when I read the Bible, I usually go several verses in front, several verses later. And it brought up a part in 2 Corinthians about not putting a stumbling block in your neighbor's path. And you could argue that promoting that is doing that. So there's multiple sins that could be going on there. And I'm certainly a sinner. Don't get me wrong. I don't want my sins listed for everyone to see. I'm not going to pretend that I'm some sort of perfect person. But on the third time, he said, you are not to come to communion. I've instructed the priest not to let you come to communion, and he kept it private. Had he found out the guy was still showing up for communion or someone was still giving him communion, he would have made it public at that time. So chances are they've been telling Nancy Pelosi not to show up. And Joe Biden was denied communion in 2019. I found an article on that. This isn't a new phenomenon, but what is new is that people are getting so upset about it. Well, when the LGBTQ plus XYZT whatever activists were pushing to let gay scoutmasters be, people said, go start your own scout group. There's no reason you can't start your own church. So our Constitution does not make anybody profess any religion. It's specifically prohibited to hold office in the United States to make any profession of faith. That's just how it is. Our Constitution does allow for the free exercise of religion. It does not use the word separation of church and state. And I voted for Romney. I didn't agree with his religion, but I voted for it. I have voted for others who I didn't totally agree with when it came to their religions, possibly. But what I am going to say is that I expect a person to be what they are. If you're a pagan and you're running as a Republican and my first issues are taxes, guns, budget, judicial appointments. If that's your views and you're pagan, be a pagan. Okay? Celebrate solstice, celebrate the equinoxes, that's great. But be a pagan. If you're going to be a Catholic, be a Catholic. When the Catholic Church says this is wrong, I expect to see you act like a Catholic. If you're going to be a Mormon, be a Mormon. But don't be a hypocrite. Don't be sitting there trying to join a church, and you see this with very liberal, the LGBTQ plus whatever. And my instructor had a student once, and we were talking politics outside of that, and I guess she later came out as not straight, and I don't have an animosity toward her. Maybe she has one toward me. I don't know. And that's on her, because if she does. But I said, if you disagree with the church so much, maybe it's time to head down the road. So maybe it's time for people that disagree with those churches to head down the road. There are churches that proudly fly that rainbow flag all through, not just during June, but the rest of the year. There are people calling themselves pastors who will say that a gay relationship is as holy as a straight one, as a straight married couple. Now, most of us would say no, but there are some that would say yes. Go join that church. At least you're professing to believe what you actually believe. Machiavelli said you don't have to believe what the people you rule believe in the prince. You have to show respect for what they believe, or maybe even mimic like you do, because people take religion very seriously. So don't give me this crap about how, Nancy Pelosi tried to say once that, abortion was central to the Catholic faith. Yeah, it's pretty central right now, but not in the way she's trying to portray it as. It is central in that she shouldn't be doing it. Or she shouldn't be promoting it. She shouldn't be promoting legislation about it if she's going to be a Catholic. So either people that are going to be part of these religions need to shape up and act like what they are. They actually are a part of that religion, and it is a hierarchical religion. Part of why I'm not part of it. I don't agree with everything on it. I probably wouldn't agree with everything any church does, but there's enough that with Catholicism, I'm not Catholic. I'm an outsider. So I may not agree with them, but I support their decision to enforce their own rules. And I will support the LDS Church. I will support any Protestant church, the Catholic Church, or even a pagan coven in enforcing their rules. So if If you can't handle that, leave. And do as the Babylon Bee suggests, and you can get communion there if you are Nancy Pelosi. Because somehow I don't think the Babylon Bee was totally being satirical as far as whether they could take the Eucharist that the Satanic Church offers. Though I wouldn't recommend a level 1 drow fighter for a beginning D&D player. Not really a good idea for a beginner. But you guys all have a good one. I try not to post stuff on flag holidays for politics or on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter. So I want to get this out tonight. Of course, more stuff is coming. And as always, like, share, and subscribe. I got to 33 views on a previous video. Love to reach that again sometime. You guys all have a good one.